All right. Hey, everybody. Hey, welcome to our performance seminar. Oh, and there's Ben. Hold on. Give me 1 minute. Hey, Ben, welcome.
Hi.
All right. Let me check in real quick here. 1 second. Um, get our next seminar up. Okay. So nice. We got Kiara, Shasana, and Ben. Excellent. Oh, all right, y'all. Give me 1 second. It wasn't letting me enter. Aha. Here we go. All right. Now our live stream is going. Excellent. So welcome, y'all. Let's go ahead and get started. So just a reminder, make sure you've got your original sound enabled, and when it's your turn to go, just go ahead and let us know what piece you'll be playing. Um, and then you can, start whenever you're ready. Okay. 1 minute. Let's see. So let's start out with. Hmm. Can we start out with Sana? Are you ready to play?
Yeah.
All right. And what will you be playing for us today?
I'll be playing Sonatina in C by Clementi today.
Nice. Okay. All right. Terrific. Nice job. All right. Nicely done, Sana. Okay, so tell us, um, what was the most difficult aspect of this to as you were learning it and preparing it?
For me, it was just my left hand was not used to playing a lot of like jumps and stuff, so that was kind of tricky for me.
Mm.
And like, yeah, this piece was probably like I have a weird relationship with this piece in particular. Like I struggled a lot with it in the beginning, and like so.
Mm. Yeah, so it can be tricky. So what are some of the trickier parts?
Like the for me particularly, it's like a few measures in the first page, and like where the right hand is like dropping and the left hand is also making jumps. That part's pretty.
Mm. Yeah, when both hands are jumping at the same time, that's true.
Yeah, those parts were pretty hard for me, and like also like the left hand jumps, quite a few of them.
Yeah, I mean that can be tricky. So I thought this was nicely done. So there's a reason this is a good piece that's played a lot. Um, It's got a lot of nice, um, probably not nice, but it's got a lot of kind of tricky problems to work out in terms of playing scales versus jumps. So jumps at the same time. So nicely done. What did you feel like went really well in that? So I thought that was a good performance.
I think I did pretty good with like the dynamics that I initially struggled with.
Nice. Yeah, I did get a sense of the dynamic. So you had a nice shape of the whole um, piece, which I thought went very was very effective. So yeah, nicely done. All right, congratulations.
Thank you.
Great work. And let's go on to who's next. We've got okay, so Ben and Kiarash. Let's go on to Ben. Are you ready to go?
Yeah.
All right, and what will you be playing for us today?
Playing Forgotten Lullaby by Mudef.
Oh, all right. Okay.
Okay.
Whenever you're ready.
Okay. ring gonna end there because the rest is the same thing.
Okay. All right. It's a good start there. Nicely done. All right. So a couple places, right? One of the challenges of playing this is the layers, probably, right? So how are you, and this is fairly consistent throughout this, the left hand of this piece. How are you approaching these parts in the right hand where you've got, whoops, where you've got a, clearly kind of this lower layer. And then you have a kind of a middle or an inner layer. Right. At least how they're notating it. Right. So there are places like say the beginning, right, where you can't make that, right? We can't reach that.
Yeah.
So how are you approaching these sorts of moments in the left hand?
For now, I just only played the top notes, and the notes I couldn't reach, I left them out.
Okay. What I would try, I would prioritize if you have to make a decision, I would err on the side of prioritizing the bass note. So if you want to play the bass note, then skip up and do the E flat. I would do that so that we get the nice bass note at the beginning.
Okay.
Right. Same with maybe, I don't even know what we do with this. Probably just roll it. Or grab whatever 3 notes of that you feel. Let's try. Can we try the beginning?
Okay.
And let's for the sake of keeping it nice and even, don't worry about keeping the tempo fast. Just let's start with a nice, right, and make sure you can get it. And then same thing there, right? I would jump down and get that A flat. Yes. So yeah, that's, to me, that's the bass notes are going to be what's important in that texture to have. Because you can also, the inner part, that the middle notes in the left hand, those are adding to the harmony. But the main thing that they're doing is they're marking quarter notes, right? Your left hand gives you a nice held out bass note, and the inner part then that you're kind of jumping up to is doing quarter notes. So as long as that inner part can provide the quarter note pulse, I would, other than that, prioritize the held out bass note in the left hand so that you get that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, so nicely done. Nice start to that. Okay, let's go. Oh, and we still have Kiarash. So let's go to Kiarash now.
I'm going to be playing Two Wild Rose by McDowell.
All right. Okay. Okay. All right. Nicely done, Josh. Okay, so how are you feeling about the performance? What are some things you thought went well? What are some things that you thought were challenging?
Ooh, well, I feel like I could have played it better. I didn't really like prepare for this performance beforehand, but I think one thing I did well was like mainly I think my pedaling was better than it used to be, and
Okay.
also my dynamics were I think fairly solid as well. If I were to say what I did well.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds the pedaling was nice. I could hear the dynamic contrast was noticeable, so I know I knew you were focusing on that. Yeah, then overall, yeah, like it was this was sounding good. So I want to talk about really quickly. Let's touch on um probably two or three things, probably just two. Um, so the first thing that's really important, this is good for everyone, right? Is so the dynamic contrast was good. Let's take stock of so what are the actual different dynamics that we get throughout the piece. So let's take inventory, right? So we start piano, we have a little swell, then we have the same thing pianissimo, then we get back to mezzo piano, back to piano. So right, so far we've got piano, pianissimo, mezzo piano. All right, in the middle here we get up to forte. Right, that's clearly the loudest dynamic that we get. Forte, then back to piano. Then at the very end we get triple P. All right, so let's make a. Hold on, real quick. Let me do one more. Here we go. All right. So let's remember. So what were the dynamics we had? We needed. So we had P. We
Yeah.
had pianissimo. We had at the very end, we had three P's. And then we had mezzo piano. And then we also had forte. Okay. So when we look at this, right, we've got like a whole right, we've got like a whole cluster of pretty similar dynamics, and then we've got one big outlier,
Yeah.
right? So let's go back into the piece. So that's the first thing. I think it would help. So I'm feeling that your actual um your actual capability with the dynamics is fine because I could hear the dynamic contrast. I think where we could focus on dynamics is in terms of how we plan out the piece. Right. So what's the purpose? The reason I say that, right, is because don't get too wrapped up in the piano, pianissimo, triple, right? That there's another purpose, right? It's very gradated between piano, mezzo piano, pianissimo, right? So what's the big if and I don't want to go back to that. So if we went back to the cluster though, what do you think is the main governing dynamic level for most of the piece?
I would say piano.
Yes, if you had to choose one. And so that's not a coincidence, right? So remember, and I want so this is good. This is good for everybody to think about with your dynamics too. Remember that the two foundational dynamics, and there's only two foundational dynamics that you should think about, right? Piano and forte, right? So don't think about placing them on this spectrum where you've got piano. Well, piano is softer than mezzo. No, it's the two. Those are the two main dynamics. Is it piano or is it forte? Mezzo piano, mezzo forte are kind of when you want to blunt those a little bit, right? So those come in, those are not foundational dynamics. Those are sort of modification dynamics,
Yeah.
right? And then same with especially like fortissimo, pianissimo, those are like special effect dynamics, right? So think about that as it applies to this piece. This is the reason I'm going through all this, right? So as you said, right, we can see most of the piece lives at a piano dynamic,
Hmm.
right? So that's where we're operating, right? And that goes with the right, that goes with the expressive indication, right? So that whatever that means tempo wise, I don't know, you can decide. Um, so this should all be living in a piano place. So our first phrase, I would, since you want to have some space underneath this, right? The main contrast here is with loud, is so piano versus the forte that's coming in the middle of the piece, right? So I think you could have your melody be a little bit stronger, especially even when it's piano, right? Just so we get a little more expression. Now, when do we drop to pianissimo? In the second phrase, right? So this is almost like we're echoing, right? And then we start over. Yeah. Right. So notice what happens. The pianissimo, the reason for this, you just want it to sound like an echo. That's all. Right. So don't think of pianissimo as like this absolute thing that you have to get. It just needs to be noticeably a little bit softer. So like an echo. Right. So same thing with all this, right? And then the mezzo piano, I don't know, it's a little excessive in my opinion, but yeah, it's saying this is a big crescendo. And where does this kind of get us back to? Notice is we settle back into a piano dynamic. So we come back to our original level, right?
Yeah.
Okay, same thing here. So I thought the crescendo here was great. You did a good job crescendoing, but the crescendo, where does the forte come in?
Over here.
Yeah. So the only thing I was thinking about that, right? Remember the crescendo is going to be paced. I thought we kind of peaked in here and we actually got a little bit softer. So make sure you are able to keep ratcheting up the dynamic gradually so that we really get here. And when you've got the chords, you've got more notes, right? So that's easier to make it louder. But I thought so. This was great. The diminuendo and the ritardando back into, and then where are we back at? We're back at piano, right? So think of it. So does that make sense? So when you shape the piece dynamically, don't necessarily get too distracted by the little fluctuations from piano to mezzo piano, piano to pianissimo or whatever. Just remember that those are all modifying piano. You've got two levels, right? Piano, forte, right? So the main climax of the piece is when you grow and grow and grow, and then forte, and then you come back to your level, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, sorry. So that's and just that's something to think about for everyone, right? So don't necessarily give all the little dynamics in a piece kind of equal attention. Really try and look over the entire piece, kind of plan it out and say, well, which dynamics seem to be the real governing levels? A lot of the time it'll be piano. But right. So I think that's maybe the big thing that will help you kind of shape and feel this a little bit more clearly, if that makes sense. All right. So thanks everyone. And I think, that does it for our time. Thank you everyone for coming.
Thank you.
Great job y'all for playing. I'll see y'all next time you play. Okay. Thanks everyone.
Bye.
See you later.